Hey, welcome to the Story Studio podcast. So today's topic sort of came from something that we saw. We had an event over the weekend. We had a bunch of people into town, and it
Wait,
was
you said you were going to do one based on a fortune cookie. Is this not that one?
based on fortune cookie, based on the idea of genre therapy, which is something that we've talked about. Which is it's it's I mean it's actually a perfect name for it because it is related to writing and what you should be writing, but also it is kind of like therapy. And we ended up with a bunch of people around the table who all had very different whys for writing, very different
That might
reasons
have been
for
the
doing
most
so.
balanced author room I have ever seen.
Yeah, not just in terms of like I want to write about spaceships and somebody else wants to write about cowboys. It
No,
was
I mean
like
like life experience, ambitions, like their whys. Like that room was just
purpose
so,
driven versus artistically motivated versus, something like that.
yeah. Like I mean, for you too, have you ever seen one that was so
No,
just
that
neat?
was amazing. That was what was so cool about it. But what really kind of drew my attention was Sean said, "Hey, around the table, how many of you raise your hand if you feel like you just kind of have to write? Like, how did you put it exactly? It was like you can't not write or something
Well,
like that.
okay. So one of the people who was sitting down was talking about how she was giving several examples of things that she had written that almost seemed compulsory, right? Like
Compulsive, I think, is what you're
compulsive.
saying.
Yeah, yeah. And like, okay, I mean, one of them was I wrote this series of things. I mean, this was something she passed around. It wasn't even for commercial reasons at all, and she
Just had a
passed it around.
personal goal to like make a change within a group that she was part of.
Yeah, actually, a few examples of things like that. And it just seemed like, okay, hold on. So, what I'm actually hearing now is that your need to write is actually that it's a need to write. And I don't think that everybody shares that. Not every writer has a need to write. Like, if they don't write, it gets like clogged up in them. And the example that I gave is I've been writing very solidly this year so far since May. I've written a lot of words, hundreds of thousands of words. But if I had to stop tomorrow for some reason, because let's say Dave and Johnny both said, okay, look, dude, I can write twice as fast as I'm writing right now if you can keep up with me on the outlines, editing, and polishing. I'd be like, all right, that's a net gain of 2x, 2x for the company. I'll put my writing aside for now. That sounds like a great idea. But
There's no danger of me writing twice as
well,
fast.
clearly, I know. But if that happened, or if somebody else came in and said like whatever, if for some reason I needed to not write, I would find other ways to feed myself. I always have. Like I haven't written all my life. I started writing a decade ago. I think when I like if I couldn't articulate my ideas or express myself in some creative way, or if I had to go work for the man, like there's a lot of things that would destroy me, but I don't have a need to write so much as a need to express myself. But there were people in that room who absolutely had a need to write. I mean, even Johnny, who very much loves to write, and I mean, it's part of him for sure. If he didn't write, like I could see him finding another way. He could become a movie director or do something. Like there are other ways that he could express himself visually and creatively. But which
Well,
of
there are two levels of it. So there's do you need to write, which is the question that Sean actually asked. But then there's do you need to find some method of self-expression that kind of looks like writing? Maybe. I actually, like Sean said, I would say I am definitely not somebody who feels I need to write. I actually started playing piano a little bit because I had this story of somebody who needed to play the piano that I was around, and it was so compulsive that she, in a really weird situation, had to like ask for permission to play a piano, and it was like really hard to make that work. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of beautiful, and it inspired me. But I don't have that. I don't have that burning need. It's something that I enjoy. I do. It feeds a part of me, but I think I definitely have a need to express myself. I have need for creative expression, but it doesn't need to be writing.
what did you do before you wrote? Like, I mean, I know you blogged a lot before.
Well, blogging definitely did not scratch the same itch. That's very different for me.
So did you have a creative itch in between the very first drafts of Bialy Pimps before you revisited it as a serious author or wanting to be a serious author? And like during that time, how did you get your creative rocks off?
I think a lot of the time,
danced.
I think a lot of the time I didn't, honestly. And that's, I mean, anybody who's heard this story before, because I've told it a bunch of times, like that was a tough time. You know, I was having panic attacks and stuff. And I think that was part of it, although I never could have put a finger on it, it was just what I was doing was so incredibly unfulfilling, and the lack of creative expression was part of it. I mean, I have drawn, I have tinkered with other forms of writing, other little projects. I'm trying to think. And I think that during college, it was just so fun. And I think I took a lot of my energy from, if this makes any sense, the creative expression of being in a group of friends, which I know is kind of a weird concept, but it was just an eclectic group and I enjoyed it, and it distracted me. So I think that I have gone through a lot of time where I wasn't doing anything and I survived, I guess.
Yeah, I think before I wrote, I mean, going back, I think there was always something. So in the flower shop was a very expressive place. I got to kind of make displays. I mean, actually just shopping for flowers was actually really expressive, because I could go, and when I'm buying flowers, I'm pretty much deciding what the store would look like for a week. Or, you know, going to the gift shows where you could buy merchandise, and, you know, you decide, okay, well, this is what we're going to carry for the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And so there were a lot of always creative decisions that were, they were very visual for sure. And I think that was one of the ways I learned to tell a story, not with words, but with displays. And I mean, you're guiding people's shopping journey, I guess, and where their eyes are going. And so, I mean, I'm only thinking about this now.
My eyes are up here, buddy.
I'm only thinking about this now as we're talking about it. It's not like at the time I thought, oh, I get to express myself visually with flowers and displays. But yeah, clearly there was expression going on there. And then when we had the preschool, there was a lot of expression as far as we designed the curriculum, we designed our preschool, you know, we fixed up the house. So I was always just kind of busy. And then I rolled right from the preschool into writing and into this life. So I guess I've always kind of had a way to express myself. And we definitely had a family business that supported that. My parents were both really, really creative. My sister is super, super creative. So I think self-expression and creative expression was always not just encouraged in my family, but it was weird if you didn't, you know. So I don't think I need to write, but if I didn't have some sort of outlet, I think that I'd feel very suffocated in life.
Well, your business is always creative.
Yeah. I've never ever had. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, wasn't that the argument that Megan made in that story that you've told a bunch of times about how creative she was?
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister was always much more creative than me, but you know,
she's amazing.
Ago, she really is. She really is. So she has like a hand greeting card company, but her greeting cards are, she's an artist like Dave's an artist, where she really does put her art first. I mean, she does really well for herself, but her work's just two different businesses, and both are not scalable. So she makes greeting cards, but instead of printing them or selling them to, you know, somebody who can print them en masse, you know, like a Chinese printer or something, she actually designs them. So she'll draw the design on just, you know, ink. And then she takes a wooden block and carves the entire design into a block of wood. And if she messes
up, she's a martyr.
Yeah, a little bit. And then that's what they do. It's hand block printing. They ink the block, and then they put it on, you know.
And she makes the ink from her own blood.
And she's had like a ton of merchandising offers for like, you know, actually some of her work was used in The Fault in Our Stars, and, you know, that elevated her profile. And, you know, she's had offers to, okay, we're going to mass produce this stuff, but she's not interested in that. And same with her weddings. She does gorgeous weddings. And she's been in pretty much every bridal magazine you can imagine. And she does, you know, work for very rich people, but it's all stuff that you're still trading time for dollars. She's still taking their money, going and buying a shit ton of perishable product, installing the weddings, and then done on the weekend. There's no way to scale that business. It is what it is for both of those. And so I've always really admired her ability to artistically express herself. Visually, I think her eye is just amazing. I have nothing but respect for what she can do. But I've always been like, man, you're leaving so much money on the table. And it's just never been about that for her. She doesn't have children. She doesn't need a lot of money. She has a good life. But she said, your art has always been your business. You've always managed to make business something that was fun and creative. And it was always like you never had to have a job because you saw the way to just make it part of your art. And I absolutely think that's true. But she was the first person in my life to tell me that and to make me see that truth. And I really am appreciative of that. So yes, I do think I need to, like, I can't build a business that isn't creative.
Well, you're the business, because I was thinking while I was saying this, and I actually have I don't have the same story of somebody telling it to me, but I've never had a real job either. I mean, if you count like part-time food service jobs, yes, but not a real job. And I've been very creative in finding alternative solutions to having a real job, even under really shitty, dire circumstances, like, losing all my money and stuff. And I never wanted to work for somebody else. So I suppose there is a certain creativity and agility in like finding a way to make things work in a way that they shouldn't in order to reach sort of some version of my optimal outcome, which for that was working for myself.
Okay, wait. I've got a question for Dave here because this was okay. So Johnny, you know how in the it took us a while of working together before we realized that we were actually two different people who saw the world differently. And okay, so I know this is really hard to believe for you listeners out there, but there was a time when I didn't realize there were so many differences between Dave and I when we were first working together. And
that's because you think that everybody thinks like you at first. It's your default.
Well, it's true. It's so true.
It's your default in our stars.
Why wouldn't somebody not want to do all these crazy things at the exact same time? And
no, and this is a pattern that I totally know now because it's been pointed out to me many times, but I didn't know it then, which is that people get like pulled into my vortex of enthusiasm and are just like agreeing to shit that they never would have agreed to, like sober. And sober in this instance means like away from my big nose and constantly flapping gums. And so Dave, in the very early days, I think this was like maybe 4 or 5 months into when I knew him, was talking about going to get a job. Do you care if I say where the application was to? Because I don't.
Go ahead. I don't care.
So he was okay.
You can just set the stage a little bit.
I could not believe this because I would seriously. Like I wasn't doing the responsible thing either. So this isn't about who was right or wrong. At the time, I was so convinced that I'd pull this shit out of my ass. I was putting mortgage payments on my credit card while writing $5 SEO articles. So
you may be convinced that you're going to pull shit out of your ass as regularly as you breathe.
Right. And
that may be something you've done a few 100,000 times.
Well, like, how many times have we not been able to do it? Like, that's the thing. If you kind of train yourself, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You just have to roll with it, whatever. And I was really used to that. Like I'd been through enough entrepreneurial shit, even at, I guess I was 31 at the time.
Isn't that how old you are now? Dave, I thought that's how old he was now.
Yeah.
I've been through enough to kind of know that I'm going to roll with it. And the idea of getting a job is pretty appalling to me. Like,
well, it's if it's anything like it is for me, it's this weird, it's not even an option. And I don't mean that like in a bravado, it just doesn't occur to me. Like even in my worst times when I'm just like, well, I guess I didn't think I could get a job.
Well, right. Okay. So because a job also, it's a ceiling, like whatever they're going to pay you, let's say it's even $20 an hour, which is, not bad. That's still, you're never going to make more than $20 for every one of those hours. And I feel like I could always make more per hour than somebody is willing to pay me, which is why I left $300 an hour consulting. Like I thought I could do better on my own. And so that's the thing. It's like you you have to believe that you can. So that's all to set the stage that back in the day, Dave emails me. He's like, there's no way we're going to be able to pull this off. I went and put an application into McDonald's. Okay, McDonald's, ladies and gentlemen. McDonald's. I wouldn't eat there, let alone work there. Like, I so don't understand. Like, and
You're such a snob.
No, I didn't know. I did not know at the time that Dave wasn't fucking with me because we didn't know each other that well. I say, like, that's the kind of shit I'd say to somebody. Oh yeah, I went to McDonald's and applied. They wouldn't even hire me.
Well,
they said the same things, but they were all serious.
I had been a reporter, and the paper shut down when the economy went to shit, and I was like, well, I wasn't going to go back to my former job. That wasn't an option, and I was just looking around, and there's not that many places around me that pay anything. So I'm like, well, I need something. I need an income of some sort. So I applied at McDonald's, and they didn't even fucking accept it. So I'm like, which is good, because I'm fairly certain if I worked at McDonald's, there would either be a murder or a suicide, or probably both within an hour.
Yes.
I mean, I worked at Burger King for less than 2 hours, I think.
But motherfuckers would always get their food and their fries at the same temperature.
It would be done right. I would take pride.
You would get yelled at by your manager all the time. They only had a problem with the burger, Dave. Why'd you remake the fries for them?
Because fries got to be hot, motherfucker.
I do think that Dave at McDonald's would be the best reality show.
David, and it would just be called Dave at McDonald's.
Well, I mean, I worked retail for many years, and I don't mind the, like, I can find pride in the job itself and doing it. I just hate the stupidity of the customers. That is what would drive me nuts, and that constant buzzing and beeping.
I got a book
machines.
out of it. Look, my job was in college was the best inspiration I could have had as a writer.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if everybody was as reasonable and logical as I am, I feel that I could thrive in a job like that, and I would do well. I mean, the money would
imagine a city full of Daves. They'd all look the same. They'd all just be grumbling around,
it's
never
like,
standing.
Can you imagine the
real Slim Shady?
Yeah.
That's what Dave's. Like,
the real Dave Davy. It even works.
I think I need to write a parody of the real Dave Davy.
Will the real Dave Davy please stand up?
No, the real Dave Davy would please sit down.
Yes. Not fucking walking. What are you kidding?
I've been thinking about this while we were talking, and number one, I forgot that I used to do photography. Like, I had a dark room in 2 separate houses. I
wow. I didn't know you had a dark room. Did I know that?
No, but there's no reason you would, I suppose.
I have a dark room, but it's not for photography.
It's just called a dark. Dave's is just a dark room.
It's my writing room.
That was a lot of fun working on that, and I would sort of disappear down there. And the other is that I am, I'm kind of my own project. So I like to, I'm an optimization guy. Like, I like to try. We were actually talking about this with somebody yesterday. So, like, I'll be the kind of guy who will just decide.
I love how perplexed he was by that also.
Well, right. Well, that's another story. But I was like, I think I'll run a marathon. So I train for a marathon, or, I think I'll conduct I did a thing where I conducted an experiment with, like, biphasic sleep, where you just sleep a few hours a night. Just experimenting with different diet patterns or exercises or new abilities, or the fact that I want to, suddenly want to play an instrument or learn a new language. And so those were always, those were creative too. I just wasn't really thinking of them in those terms. It was like, so writing was one thing, but so were all the other endeavors that I did. They were just like, well, what else can I learn? What else can I do?
So Dave, well, actually, we all know Dave. Dave, you draw. Like, if you weren't writing, you would draw. Well, okay, so in the time I've known you, you actually have had kind of like a clash in you.
Yes.
If you're writing, you want to draw more. If you're drawing, you want to write more. So how have you... So I don't think it's that you need to write or you need to draw. It's that you need to express. So how do you find that balance between those two disciplines?
It's difficult. All my life, I've done both. Since I was a child, I don't remember if I wrote or drew first. Probably drew, and then I wrote. And did comics for like 10 years, and there's something. There's something really awesome about doing comics in that it's a daily thing, and you release it to the world, and people react to it. I like that. I like connecting with people in some way, and people would like email me and tell me like how the comic touched them in some way or another. I enjoy that connection. That's what I like. That's why I do art, is to connect, even though I hate people. It's a weird dichotomy, but it's I've always needed to do both, and it's difficult when I can't do both. I mean, in an ideal world, I would be so good of an artist that it wouldn't take me as long as it does to draw, and then I could write and draw at the same time, and feel really good about myself.
So do you ever like imagine like what a perfect day would be for you, and does it include both disciplines?
A perfect day.
Perfect day. I would be virtually alone. I would draw, and then I would write and release it onto the world.
Does one feed the other? Like if you draw before you write, do you notice anything with your writing? Or if you write before you draw, do you notice?
I feel more when I'm able to do both within the same day, and it's rare. I feel really energized and good. But when I can't do one or the other, or I'm not doing well at one or the other, struggling in some way, it's more difficult. I just think of all the things I want to do that I can't do, and it adds to all the anxiety. And I feel like somebody with like 1 billion open doors, and I want to go through every one of them, and I can't even go through one.
Okay, so I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but have you ever thought about, or have we ever talked about, and I don't remember, about like including art in some way for CI stuff? Now, I know it's not the same style. I know that you have a real cartoony look, but like, how we were doing those chapter heads, right, at the beginning of books, or some kind of way to, because you did do that in the early days, not with chapter art, but you made our covers, which was a way to, visually.
I would love to do our covers again, but I would need to get good enough to do that.
What you could do instead of our covers is like, it's still visual art, but not in a conversion way. So like, for example, okay, here's a really good example. Our white space cover, the original that you originally did.
Yeah, me too.
Now that looks more like a teaser poster than something that would convert to sell a book. It's slightly different. But you could do that, like, okay, what our lineup is like for a year, so you make a lot of teaser art, and then every email is like, hey, it's another tease, it's another like, here I am as an artist, and I actually think that'd be a really good idea, because
but covers don't scratch, or like that kind of art doesn't scratch the drawing itch.
But it could be something like that, like hey,
I like to draw specifically comics. I would like to draw like humorous. I like humorous things. I would like to draw like if we had a Dr. Seuss like project, like I would love to draw for inside that. That would be something I would enjoy.
See, I would
absolutely do if you want to do that. But
I would posit that you also like darkly humorous things.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So and
well, I like both. I like cute, and I would like to do kids book, but I also like the dark humor as well. Yeah.
Right. So what I was thinking is, I already forgot. I lost my point on this. So, I know what it was. So, Sean, without naming names or anything, like one of the people that we were talking to this weekend, we were talking about harmonizing two very different kinds of art, right? Like she had writing, and then she had another art that she really likes to do. It's similar to Dave in this way. And the solution was not like, don't make two sides of the same thing or anything, but maybe in an inspired by sort of way. So for instance, I would think that you could draw some various dark comics that were inspired by white space that would never be used in like the books themselves unless you wanted to, but like it's the same emotional content. It's, something like that.
Okay. So during, it's October right now, and it's Inktober.
And I started doing Inktober.
Right. Why did you stop?
Hope is just a dream that doesn't know it's dead yet. With a very adorable looking dog.
It's a rabbit.
I heard that was
a rabbit. Okay, well, dog rabbit. But the idea is it's the juxtaposition of cute and the Dave Hope message is wonderful.
Yes. Now, what were you asking?
Well, I was just asking why.
Why I stopped? Because it was taking me long to draw, and I was behind on the book, and I felt it was something I couldn't really justify. So I said, well, fuck it. I'll just wait until I'm done with the book and then draw some more.
Well, I would say I had several people in the company ask me, Dave's stuff is really cute. All right, they probably didn't use the word cute, so I don't want to offend you.
They were talking about me. Adorable.
Dave's stuff is great.
Cuddly.
Why doesn't he send that to his audience? Which is a great question. And that's the kind of thing where you would think, I mean, I know you well enough to know that you probably, why would they want that? That's not why they signed up. They want, books about dead children. They don't want.
I see, that's the problem. Like, I feel like I am, I have disparate different things, and I don't know how well they connect with every element.
But you just have to be more willing to be yourself and know that, because, I mean, look at the difference, not to get in, and this is really about how we need to write or need to express ourselves. But I think this is part of the same conversation, because the sooner you get comfortable with who you are as a creator, Dave, the better you're going to be able to have a sustainable relationship with your audience. And that's been a clash that I've seen with you the whole time I've known you. And it's never, ever served you, because you're worried about being yourself, and you're worried about this
I compartmentalize a lot.
Right. And then, so who are you bonding with in your emails? If you just sent an email every week that was you, that was the only thing that Dave, not with 30 links like your infamous Super Bowl email, which was a launch email for our books. But if it's not that, if it's just once a week with one link, just like we've always talked about, and okay, now it's Inktober, so I'm going to send you the best thing I wrote this or drew this week. And that kind of consistency that shows who you are as an artist, as an author, as a communicator, as a visual stylist. This is how I express myself. I swear, dude, you will bond with your audience.
And that you asked what my ideal day is. That would be my ideal day. Like, even like blogging on my blog and like regularly posting like 2 different things I'm doing, the art side and the writing side, something that would be my ideal. And I just get so lost in like, is this right? The anxiety of it all, and I just say, fuck it, I'm not doing anything.
Dude, let us rebuild that. I mean, we closed our box.
We have the technology. We can rebuild.
We do. We've closed enough boxes that we could start building that kind of stuff into your life, into your schedule, because you are a fantastic artist. And I don't just mean with what you draw or what you write. I mean you in the totality of who you are as a creator. And you're a little bit timid about tapping into that in some more meaningful ways. And I think that you have the assets of this company, and that we can help you realize that.
So that would be the creative expression episode, I guess. It meandered a little bit into creative expression, which I thought was really cool, because I think that many of us do have many outlets that we...
Yeah, I don't think anybody listening to the show does one thing.
Right.
I think when you are a person who wants to create or wants to tell stories or wants to impact people with your voice in some way, I think that is where it comes out, for sure.
So if you really want Dave to start sending his comics out, I would suggest that you email help@sterlingandstone.net and yell at him about it. All right. So thanks for listening to the Story Studio podcast. We will see you next time.
Adios.